We're in an information session for Chapman University for our graduate programs. We won't be discussing undergrad. This is for if you would like a master's or PhD degree. And so with that, we can go ahead and get started. We're going to go into the guidelines for applying as an international applicant. So someone who is coming to the US from abroad, as many of you will be, or as we see some international students already here in the US. So the first thing I want to go into is who is an international applicant? Who does Chapman consider to be international? When you're applying versus when you're a student, we define international a little bit differently. So it is important for you to take note for the application. An international applicant is someone who has received their higher education degree at an institution outside of the US. So if you were educated in another country, whether you're a US citizen or you're not, our application is going to provide you with international requirements based on your educational history. Right. So if you're an international student and you went to a US school, our application is actually going to have documents from you that are domestic for us. Those are US transcripts you're going to be sending to us. And so you won't have these additional application guidelines because your education was here in the US. So that is a really big distinction for our application, is that a lot of our requirements are truly based on where you received your education. And if it was outside of the US, there are going to be international education requirements. Now, once you're admitted, and let's hope all of you are, so let's say you're admitted to Chapman, at that point, your international status does switch. So we're no longer basing it off your education history at that point. At that point, we truly look at your citizenship and who is a US citizen or permanent resident versus who is not. And at that point, we want to start communicating with you about what immigration status you'll be holding here in the US to complete your degree. So again, a really big distinction right there based on what our application requires versus who you're going to be when you're here at Chapman. To give you a little bit of insight as to who Chapman is, if you're not already aware, we are located in California, in Southern California, in Orange County. To give you a little perspective, we are very close to where Disneyland is. So we host international students every year, both at the graduate and the undergraduate level. So if you do join our community, you'll be joining a total of 477 students, which we currently have. Those students represent 45 different countries. And this fall, we welcomed a new cohort of students that's 172, and that is combined between graduate and undergraduate students. So it's a good representation on our campus, and hopefully there are students from your home country here on our campus already that you'll be able to connect with. So diving into what our application looks like, if you were to open a Chapman application for a graduate program today and start filling out the information, there are going to be requirements based, again, if you received your education outside of the US. So just to start, we'll go into the application documents. These documents are going to be required for the application. So I can have the next slide. And there are a couple items, thank you, that are going to be a little bit specific for program to program, but majority of our applications require these three. One note we want to make is Chapman University's language of instruction is English. We do not, unfortunately, offer English language support. So we do need our applicants and our students to arrive on our campus able to speak English at an academic level within a graduate setting. So we want you to be set up for success and to enter our either master's or PhD classroom and thrive and not struggle with the language or the writing or the research that you'll have to conduct in English. So with that, our application does require all documents to be submitted in English. So letters of recommendation, majority of our apps do require 2 letters, and these will be submitted directly by your recommender. So the recommender will have the opportunity to submit these to us, and they'll be added directly into your file. This does indicate, though, that your recommender needs to be able to write your letter in English themselves, or they're going to need to have their letter officially translated, and they will need to submit the translation. Unfortunately, we won't be able to accept documentation from you to be considered official. So we do recommend finding recommenders who can write their letter for you in English directly. A resume or CV will be required, again, fully in English, and a statement of intent. So original work for this essay will be required. We know AI is rapidly entering our world, but this does need to be your original work written in English by you. And if for specific guidelines onto what you should include in the statement of intent, we definitely recommend reaching out to your individual program to see exactly what they may be looking for in that statement. The next component of the application are going to be transcripts. You absolutely need to submit your grades from previous degrees that you've received. So this is an official document that your institution that you attended will provide. It lists all the subjects taken and grades earned for each year of study. There are a couple ways you can get this to us. Your institute can send it electronically directly to Chapman. So there's the email address right there you can provide to your university. And they can send that directly to us and we'll get that uploaded into your file. If your institute is unable to send it electronically, you can have them mail it to us as well. We do still accept mail. So our address is listed right there as well, and they can send it to us. We do know that that could slow down the process of your application becoming complete, just because mail does take more time than electronic. So we ask that you take that into consideration when processing your application. Now, in the event that you're unable to get an official document from your university sent to us in a timely manner, you can upload a copy of that official document to the application. Now, I want to be really clear here. It does need to be a copy of the official document. So you still need to get that official transcript from your university, and you can upload a scanned copy to the application. But know that that original document will need to be turned into us if you are admitted. So we really always look to make sure that what you submitted for the evaluation matches what you turn in if you're admitted. So do make sure that that is a copy of your official document. And we allow this for our students that were educated outside of the US, again, for that timeliness. We understand that, institutes may not be able to get us the document in a time frame that meets our deadlines or helps you receive your admission decision or any evaluation decision in a timely manner. So no, you can ask us if you have questions as to exactly how to meet this requirement, but our website as well as our application does go into detail on this even more. Okay, so as I mentioned, Chapman University operates in English only. So if you have received a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, a PhD degree at an institute where English was the only language of instruction, then we will waive this language exam for you. But if your institute was conducted in another language or it was a bilingual school with multiple languages, you will need to submit this English language exam. We will do an evaluation on your education. So when you submit your transcripts, we'll verify if your education was conducted in English or not. If it's as easy, yes, your education was in English, we will waive this exam automatically on your file. Sometimes we have to do a little bit more investigation, or we need you to send documentation from your university confirming the language of instruction, and we'll be in touch with you if you believe this should be waived and we need a little bit more documentation to confirm that. Otherwise, if you were educated in a language other than English, we do require an English language exam. Listed here are the ones that we do accept, and on our website are our minimum scores for each of these as well. If you have any questions, again, please reach out and ask us. But this is a component that will keep your file incomplete. Your file will not move forward for evaluation if it is required of you. So I did go ahead and list those minimum scores for you here. These are our scores for every college except Dodge College. Dodge College has scores that are a bit higher than these. And again, you can see those on our website. But for everyone else, these are the minimum scores you should aim to receive on these exams. Okay, so I mentioned how we do a bit of investigation on your transcripts to verify the language you were educated in. We also do equivalency evaluations. So we look at what your degree is from your home country and what does that equate to here in the US. In order to join a master's degree program, you must have an equivalent of a US bachelor's degree. And if you have any questions as to whether or not your degree does equate to a US bachelor's degree for our evaluation, go ahead and ask us, or always, submit your application and we will notify you through that process as well. So we are looking for degree equivalency. We're also looking at your institute and the accreditation or recognition that it holds in your home country. The Ministry of Education in your home country should recognize the institute that you go to. If it doesn't, we most likely won't be able to receive and recognize your education as having the appropriate accreditation to join our school. Again, if you have questions, we are happy to look into that for you and let you know. But it should be quite clear on your university's website or on your country's Ministry of Education website what institutes are recognized. And lastly, we will take your GPA or all of your grades and convert it to our US 4.0 scale. So we do want you to be evaluated equitably against all other applicants from all other nations and the US. And so we convert everyone to the same 4.0 scale. We're using, again, our in-house evaluation guidelines. And so every person from your home country is being graded on that same scale for the conversion rate. So we do look for consistency across our applicants and across nations to make sure that everyone is looked at on the same rubric for that 4.0 scale. Now, of course, we differ country to country, but we're being very consistent. So with that, we don't accept outside evaluations. If you've heard of WES evaluations or, these other companies that will evaluate your transcripts and provide you with all of these equivalencies, we do not accept those. So you don't have to worry about going out and getting that. All we need are your official transcripts, and we will conduct this evaluation within Chapman. Now, hopefully to help you through this process, we do have an international applicant FAQ page. It is on our website. It goes through so many questions about how to apply, and then even more into if you're admitted, what are the next steps. So definitely take a look at our website and go through those additional questions. Hopefully we answered and we'll continue to answer many of those today, but we do put them in writing for you to revisit and go back to or do a little bit more reading on what we require. We can also add that link in the chat. So I do want to really encourage you to look into Education USA. Education USA has advising centers throughout the world. They are a component of the U.S. Department of State, and they are housed in U.S. embassies and consulates throughout I think it's over 170 countries. Yes. So more than likely they have them in your country and ideally in a city near you. But these are advisors that are skilled and knowledgeable about pursuing education in the US. They're not Chapman representatives, but they are US representatives helping you through the application process, narrowing down what schools would be best for what you wish to pursue. They can even help you through the immigration process. So they provide very comprehensive support and advising for students in countries to arrive here in the US, to apply to arrive here in the US. And so highly, highly recommend doing a quick Google search for Education USA, finding a center near you, and going in, making an appointment, visiting them. They host let's say you're admitted and you're ready to join us come next fall. Over the summer, they host orientations for how to prepare for arrival in the US. So again, definitely a resource that we recommend. And again, it's a US, the US government is providing this to you all. So please take advantage of it and look into it. Now, a big consideration when choosing a school is affordability and what is accessible within your means. So definitely want to, put it out there that our tuition at the graduate level does differ per program. If we could also add the link in the chat for the tuition costs, you're going to see that some programs list it by credit, some will list it by term. So then you're gonna need to know how many credits is my program or how many terms is my program. And really look at the whole cost when considering Chapman. first want to say, the US federal financial aid is not available to anyone who does not hold US citizenship or permanent residency. So if you don't have that status, you won't be eligible for any of our federal aid. What you will be eligible for are our Chapman merit-based scholarships. So I do want to say that unfortunately at the graduate level, we do not offer need-based scholarships. So we are need blind, meaning when you're applying to us, we actually have no indication as to what your financial ability is. You are going to be admitted and evaluated specifically on your competitiveness and ability to join our program. And we take great pride in that we are admitting all qualified applicants. But there is the reality of what are the costs associated with attending our program should you be admitted. So there is no additional application you need to fill out in order to be considered for these scholarships. Just by applying, our admission process will consider you both for admission and for a scholarship, again, based on the competitiveness of your application. So that's why we say they're merit-based. They are based on what you provide to us as a competitive applicant. Now, I do want to say that these awards are limited. Every department has a different amounts of awards they're eligible to give. So I do recommend reaching out to the department specific that you're going to be applying to know, what are the scholarships this program offers. But if you are in need of full tuition coverage, in addition to fellowships that cover living costs, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to offer that in majority of our programs. So we really want to be upfront with you that what our cost is and what our ability is to help you close the gap that you may have to meeting the full cost of attendance at our school. So please have these conversations with us as soon as possible so that you're very aware of the viability for you to attend our school should you be admitted. Okay, so now we're jumping into the happiest hypothetical possible is you've been admitted, right? You've gone through the application process, you've waited your time, maybe done an interview, and you've been admitted. So what is the next step? As I mentioned earlier, at this point, we start looking at who are our students that hold other citizenship statuses. They are not US citizens. And we start communicating with you as an international student from the citizenship component. And that's because at this point, we want to and need to support you through the immigration process. So if you're admitted and you don't hold US citizenship, you will be provided what we call an international supplement form. This is a form that you'll fill out in your application portal, and you'll provide us with information about your current citizenship status and the visa status you hope to hold while you're here in the US. Now, a big component of this is that the US government requires us, in order to move forward with supporting you through the immigration process, financial verification from you. So the US government does require that institutes ask for proof of funding for 1 year's worth of tuition, as well as 1 year's worth of living costs. So that can include your own personal funding, family funding, any Chapman scholarships you may have received, any outside scholarships or loans you're receiving, employer funding, sponsorships. However you intend to pay for your education, we need to know up front for that first year. So again, we do have documentation showing you what 1 year's worth of tuition and living costs will look like for your program, should you get to this point. Again, we don't want to overwhelm you. Unless you are admitted and get to this point. The reason for this is, let's say all goes well, you have the funding, you've provided us with the documentation. We then issue you what's called a Form I-20. This is a US federal document that we produce, creating an immigration record for you, a student immigration record for you. Once we send you this document, this is your permission to then go to the US Embassy or consulate near you and apply for the F1 student visa. And you'll go through that interview process and approval process with them. We cannot intervene on any of that approval process for the visa. Us providing you an I-20 is enough to show the US government that you've met our admission requirements and we are inviting you to the US to attend our university. And you have shown you have the funding to fulfill your financial costs once you do come here. So that's a process that we will work with you on. Again, should you be admitted, but that financial piece I keep stressing because it is very important to move through this process, and it holds a lot of students up if they cannot produce the full amount in funding. So again, ask your questions now. We want to help you throughout the process as much as possible, and anticipate what might be coming.